بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله قال الله تعالى ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة صدق الله العظيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا. Inshallah, welcome to everybody again, those who are listening on live or recording. Mashallah, welcome. And alhamdulillah, we've come now to our third session on this marriage course. If you remember, we've discussed regarding the pre-marriage, how to look for an ideal spouse and what to do there. Mashallah, we have some really good feedback for improvements, and currently I am trying to improve those slides and doing things that people have suggested, mashallah. So jazakumullah for your feedback as well. Allah Ta'ala reward you and bless you all. Now, we went through how to, the second part of this was during marriage, and how to live a happy life and in essence maintain a long-term, lifelong honeymoon period we were talking about, right? So obviously some people do ask that, is this even realistic to say that a honeymoon period would last longer or last for a lifetime? So when I say that, lifelong honeymoon period, how many of you would think that this is possible? And how many of you think that, we're just talking fairy tale here? Maybe people can comment.
Well, the chat is open so everyone can respond. And if they want to talk on the mic as well, I've turned on the mics.
It is possible, yeah, mashallah. Yep, both after actively taking part, then yes, that's right. The question is, do you think a honeymoon period, we say maintaining a lifelong honeymoon period, do you think that's possible? Are we talking fairy tales here? So everyone thinks that is possible, mashallah, yes? Or maybe because I'm saying it like that, yeah? Lead on question from me, yeah? So it's possible then. Everyone agrees that it's possible. So something which I think brings it home to you, the reason why I say it's possible is because I've seen it. That's why I say it's possible. So you want to believe that it's possible, inshallah, yes? But I think it is possible because I've seen it myself. So I'm talking back when I was studying. There was a teacher of mine that I was very close to, mashallah. Often would visit his house. So it would be very, very refreshing to me anyway, that a couple who have now reached probably mid or late 40s, and they behave with one another, their way of speaking to one another, their behavior, everything is like they've just got married, like recently got married. They're just really refreshing, really fresh. And the way he talks to her, his loving, caring address towards her, the way she responds, just everything about it really. And once when I was alone with him, I had the chance to ask him this question that, and this was when I was getting married myself. So he told me this. Do you know this example I gave last time of the flower? That love is like this flower. The more you look after it, the more it will give you comfort. The more it will give you pleasure. The more it will give you so much. So it's just it's the effort that you put in, like many people have mentioned here. The effort that you put in it will, inshallah, you will see the benefits of that. So everyone wants this honeymoon period. You want it, you're going to have to make a bit of effort, not that much, but a bit of effort in maintaining that relationship that you once had. And as I mentioned to you from the Quran, I gave you from the Quran the proof that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَمَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Allah has placed that there already, just because you got married to each other. So if Allah has placed that there, our job is to maintain it then, isn't it? So it's very much doable, very much doable, I would say, from the indication from the Quran and also from life experience in terms of seeing it being done. So you have to appreciate one another is the key thing here. You have to appreciate, and the more you appreciate one another, the more that the love for one another will build. So you appreciate the things that, for example, as from the husband's perspective, he will appreciate things that she does for him. She for example, if she irons his clothes for him, she washes his clothes, she does whatever she needs to do for him. She does things, and the more that you appreciate that she does these things for me, the more that love will grow for her. In exactly the same way for the wife, she needs to positively look at the things that he does for me, and put positive light to it, and inshallah shine positive light on it. Inshallah, the appreciation for one another will grow, and the love for one another will grow. And as the love grows, there will be more a reason to behave with one another in a beautiful manner, in essence. So that's what's going to keep this honeymoon period talking about, keep this honeymoon period very much alive. And in fact, the relationship will go from strength to strength, literally, not just being some fantasy, not just being a fairy tale, but it's something we need to give a bit of attention to. So yeah, inshallah, hopefully people understand that concept. That would be something which stays with you, something that when I tell people, then alhamdulillah, it stays with them, this understanding of how you see it. So anyway, for this, the major influences we want to talk about. What influences this honeymoon period? What maintains it? Yes. So we're looking at three main areas here. There are many factors. Okay, we can't go into all the factors. We will be here forever talking. Yeah? So the main factors I'm talking about. So women generally mention about finances. So we talk about finances. Men generally mention about intimacy. So we talk about that from both angles. And then generally for the couple, for both of them, after children, what to do post children. So these are three main areas that we want to talk about. Inshallah, that will help us to maintain this honeymoon period. There will be other ingredients that you're going to have to start learning, as we talk along, and add them in really to your marriage, for you to be able to maintain this honeymoon period. I mean, one thing I wanted to also mention was that if you've kind of, maybe already married, and your honeymoon period is somewhat extinguished, you can say, somewhat gone away, and you're thinking there is no honeymoon period, I don't see how we're gonna. So you can reignite that honeymoon period. Understand how relationship is between the two of you, isn't it? And build on that relationship really. So reignite it really, spark that up again. You were able to do it once upon a time. You are still the same people. So why is it that you would not be able to do it again? Is the question. Is the question is, you want to ask yourself by looking in the mirror, is that, do I want to do it? That's the question. So if you do, then you're going to have to make a little bit of effort. So that's the way to do this. So it doesn't matter, even if you think you've passed it, you can still concentrate on these factors and start to reignite that love and that care for one another. Might require a bit more effort, but inshallah I'll get there. So firstly is finances. So what we do is maintain a balanced approach is very important in spending. A balanced approach will be something which you're going to have to both talk about what it means to both of you. Balance. What does balance mean to the two of you? So that's something we're going to have to look at. Now, especially, I would say early on in marriage, for those who are not married yet, but early on in marriage, don't create a impression that you're a heavy spender. And I say this primarily focused to the women, that don't give this impression that you're a heavy spender or that you are stingy. And I say this primarily to men, that don't start giving this image that you're a stingy person, and don't start giving this image that you are a heavy spender on one side. So these are two things that you need to do. And if you do that, then you're going to be on the road of, inshallah, maintaining this balanced approach we're talking about, okay? But if you start giving an impression that you're a heavy spender, you just spend, you don't look at the price. The price tag doesn't matter to you. What's the price to you? Like some people have this attitude, right? That what's the price tag? You just want something, right? If you want it, you want it, have it. If you can afford it, then buy it. And some people have this attitude. I'm not saying that this is a wrong attitude, by the way. I'm just saying at the beginning, early on in marriage, you do not want to give that impression. Yeah, you don't want to give an impression that you're a heavy spender, because then when that, first impression we say is last impression, when that impression is set in, then he will always consider you to be somebody who's a heavy spender. Likewise, if you give this impression that you're stingy, then you're always going to be the stingy man. And, you're just going to be known as that. So don't give these impressions. You understand me? Because nobody likes to think themselves to be loose, in terms of, they know they should, and nobody seems to want themselves to be a stingy person as well. So according to you, you are balanced. You just have to understand and give that across. It's not that you're not being genuine. It's just that you want to give across what balanced means to you. So that's why I take the middle approach in early on in marriage. So that's what you want to create, and that's what you want to do. Now, the second is to maintain this, to be able to get this balanced approach. This is the first thing you do, is impression at the beginning. And secondly is discuss your finances together. You need to sit down, work out something that suits the both of you. Understand? So it's obvious that a man needs to provide for the wife. Now, I've mentioned this previously, that it doesn't matter if the wife is working or even not working, but the wife has funds, she has money of her own. It does not matter. The husband has to provide the financial security, has to provide that finance for the wife. Now that doesn't mean that he has to provide beyond need. He has to provide the amount that is needed. So, but sometimes you have to obviously go a little bit beyond to maintain a good relationship as well, not just fulfilling bare minimum needs. So we're talking about, let's just give you a few examples of how things can be arranged when we're talking about discuss things and work things out together. So we're not just talking about advice, we're talking about practicals. So how would you maintain this? How would you actually go about doing this? Is you sit down and you discuss things. So what works for both of you? So one option could be that the husband gives the wife a regular stipend. So he gives her regularly, every month he'll give her a certain amount. And this is according to both their financial situation. They look at the financial background, what kind of background she's from as well, and what kind of affordability there is for him. So we look at both of them things, and according to that, then they will come to an agreement that, look, I'll give you this much every month or every week, whatever suits them. Are you happy with that? And if she says, yeah, I'm happy with that, then that works, right? It works for both of them and they're both happy. And the best way to then do that would be then to set up some sort of a direct debit or something that goes straight into her account, and work it out like that. That would probably be the best way. The only thing with people may say that, can I not just give cash every month? If you've got this agreement, this regular stipend agreement, the only problem is then you may forget 1 month, you may delay 1 month, and things happen like this. And then, a few months get dragged on, and she'll ask after a few months that you haven't given me for 2 months now. And then you'll be like, no, I gave it to you last week. And then I gave it to you last month. It's only 1 month we're missing, and whatever else. It gets a bit messy. So because there's an agreement in place. So when there's an agreement in place, then you need to make sure that it doesn't, don't leave any room for, for it to go wrong. Put it that way. Yeah. So having a regular, standing order or something going into account would be the ideal way to sort this one out, if you're going with this kind of a approach. If this doesn't work for you because maybe you don't like that, both of you, then something else, you can have another agreement. So husband gives, for example, the wife the freedom to spend as she wishes, as and when, you can even say, she wishes, something which is fit within a limit. So within a certain limit that they'll work out, that stay within the limit. Like let's say you have a budget, so you have got we've got an account, and we want to make sure that maybe 40% or 30% of the cash is always there, but up to 60% or up to 40% or up to 30%, whatever it may be, depending on how much you have in there. You want to come to an agreement that, that's limited per day kind of thing, right, to spend. So the husband gives the wife the freedom to spend as she wishes the money, because what's his money is her money, and that's the attitude towards this, and that's fine. That's no problem. So that works for them, and that's their agreement. But it's just something that you need to talk about. You can't just assume that this will happen. The biggest thing I deal with a lot of times is the man says a complaint, which is that she just thinks that my money is hers and her money is hers. I think people will probably laugh at that one, right? So you'll have the husband complain saying that my money is hers. Like she'll say that our money, she'll treat it as our money, and she'll even refer to it as our money, but her money is hers for some reason, and she'll say that my money is mine, so she'll refer to it as my money. So I know many women on here will say, yeah, what's wrong with that? So that's whatever it is. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that people complain about this. So if people are complaining about it, obviously some people have a problem about it. So we need to, the point is that you need to have you need to be on the same page when it comes to finances. And that will only happen if you talk about it. So this is another thing that people can do. Then we have another approach that possibly could work is the husband sets a float amount. So he has a float, which he'll obviously, which the wife can spend from, and he'll regularly top it up. So he'll keep it, he'll keep the float somewhere that she can access. I don't know, it could be anywhere. I in fact dealt with one particular case in which he would place in a certain cupboard, he would place the money there, and he would keep, like, for example, £100 there all the time. After a couple of days, he would check it. If it's gone down, decreased to whatever, £60, £70, and he'd just top it up to 100. So he'd just keep topping it up every few days to make it into 100. And whenever she wanted, she would go there, she would take the money, she would spend, and there would be no accountability needed because the money is there, it's limited already. You don't need to take account that where did you spend that money, so there needs to be a bit of freedom that's applied here. So anyway, whatever works is why I say these are the suggestions I'm giving as to what needs to be discussed. Maybe another suggestion there was as well that that there's no fixed amount. Rather, she asks him whenever she requires, and it works for her. That's the way she likes it, And the key thing is, if this one is the one that you're going to choose, which many people would say, many men like to choose this one, which is that whenever she needs it, she'll ask for it, right? But then you need this part of it, which is that he should give her freely, with genuine happiness, without any facial expression of discontent, or why do you need money now, or like anything whatsoever. It should be like I say, it should be just like a cash machine. Yeah, she could come, she can ask for the money, she gets the money. There should be no questions as to why this much, or anything like that, because this then will not work. This number 4 will not work. So I'm saying this because men like this one. They like this part. There shouldn't be a fixed amount. She can ask whenever she wants. But if you're going to have that, then you're going to need to do this as well. You're going to need that. You make sure that the approach to that is in a way whereby she doesn't feel intimidated in any way. She doesn't feel as though she's asking for something she shouldn't be. There needs to be a bit of comfort there in terms of the finance. So these are just suggestions that what could work, but the reason I'm setting you these is because it sets you in your way, inshallah, to try to discuss finances together in a way that would work for both of you. So either this, or even whatever suggestion, whatever works for the two of you, it's something that needs to be discussed though. Finances create a lot of problems if you do not discuss them and they're not clear. That's with anything, right? If finances between two business partners is not made clear, you're going to have problems, right? So in the same way here, in the marriage, if you don't have your finances discussed properly, you're going to get problems. And she will feel uncomfortable, and he will do nothing to try to solve that problem. Whereas Shar'an, we know, according to our Sharia, he has this financial responsibility that he needs to fulfill towards her. Hopefully this makes it clear, yes? It's just continuing on to that, on that note regarding finances. The main gist of it is that husbands should make their wife feel comfortable spending the money he gives to her. He shouldn't make, as it's her own money. Make it known that it's your money, you spend it how you want. I've given it to you, now it's yours. You understand? Obviously for her, she should be moderate as well in her spending. She shouldn't be blowing it on things that when he finds out he's not happy about, because then he's not going to be comfortable giving that. So there needs to be that balance. This is what we're talking about from the first thing I talked about, which is maintaining a balanced approach. So a balanced approach is in this way. That comfort needs to be there from his side, that the wife feels that she is the wife. She needs to feel that. Anyway, so another point is, for example, just put it to a perspective, because men don't get what I mean when I say this. What do you mean? Like, she can ask you for the money. So hopefully this will drill it home for you. So put yourselves in the shoes, innit? So for example, the wife's, should feel comfortable to order. So let's say the wife's gone out with her friends, right? So you've gone out with your friends, and I'm sure everyone's been in this kind of a situation before. Most of you probably have been in this kind of situation before, that, you went to the restaurant and all your friends are ordering, some nice expensive dish on the menu because it's the special item, right? And it's a special occasion. You've gone out like once in a year or once every so often. You rarely go out together, and you've got together on this occasion of a friend's wedding or something. And everyone's ordering this expensive stuff, and you're looking at your purse, you're looking at your wallet, and you can't afford anything but a burger and chips, for example, right? So you can only afford to pay for £5, £6, £7 maximum, and you probably won't even get the drink. You probably get water instead, because you probably can't afford it. So it's a very, very uncomfortable position to be in, isn't it? I'm sure people in their youth would have been in this kind of a situation where maybe certain friends were able to spend more than what you were able to spend. That feeling is what the wife is going to be feeling when she goes to a restaurant with her friends, and she's not, obviously, she's got that feeling that I'm going to have to account for this. I'm going to have to give the receipt for this, and all of these kind of things. So that's what I'm talking about. That comfort is not there then, is it? And so that's the point of this one. So that comfort needs to be there, whereby she can go to the restaurant and she can buy what she needs to buy. That confidence is there in the wife, that she understands that there are certain limits, but a little bit here and there is fine. So she shouldn't be concerned, and that I have to give account to my husband and whatever else. Does that make sense, everybody? So this is what I'm talking about. Hopefully this example would put it into perspective for people, that what I'm talking about here, in terms of the thing. This is more, I know that it's more directed. I'm sure that the women would be saying yes in this one, mashallah. Very quick to respond, yeah? Okay, the longer chats, Maulana, if you want to read them out, might be easier.
So should a husband and wife discuss how much each other makes, also as this could affect what the other thinks of the allocation stipend? Example, too little in comparison to what the husband earns. I'll just read that again, Muslim.
Yes.
Should a husband and wife discuss how much each other makes, also, as this could affect what the other thinks of the allocated stipend? Example, too little in comparison to what the husband earns. So,
yeah. My personal advice on this, if you want to take my personal advice, don't ask me why, because then it's going to go into a big, long discussion. My personal advice is that you don't need to know how much each of you are earning. Okay?
Yeah.
That's my personal advice. Okay? There's reasons why I say that, which is going to go into a long explanation. But knowing how much each one earns, let's say you do know how much he earns, or let's say he does know how much you earn, how much the wife earns. What benefit will it give is the question that you want to think about. It probably create more problems than it will solve problems, is what I'm looking at. Because, the question is that you want a certain amount as a nafaqa, as a stipend. That's what you want, right? Example. So let's say you want, I don't know, I'm just throwing a figure out there. You want £100 every month, example. If that's less, then you can put more and whatever it is. So the question is, you want that in it. You want that. That's what you want. So your question shouldn't be, how much do you earn? That's not the question, you see. The question is, can you afford to give me £100 every month? And if he says, yeah, I'll give you that, then that's it. Your problem is solved, right? Yeah. Why then create more of a mess for you that, oh, let me work out how much he's getting. All right, you're only giving me 1% of what you're earning. You know, and then it gets into more of a problem for you. Money has never solved problems for people, is what I'm trying to say here. Okay, it creates more problems than anything else. So, you know, getting too involved in the money matters does lead to problems. But that's down to the couple. That's down to the couple to decide that. I'm not sitting here telling you that you have to do exactly this. This is my personal advice. That's why I didn't want to put any personal advice in here, but obviously because you've asked the question, so obviously I have to answer the question. But the advice is, general advice is what I'm saying on these slides, inshallah, okay?
There's a follow-up question myself.
The joint accounts is inshallah coming up. Is it a joint accounts one, that one, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, inshallah, that's coming up. All right, so here we go. Okay, I strongly discourage joint accounts. If in the 12 years that I've done marriage counseling, joint accounts has been the major cause of this finance problems, these joint accounts. Okay, I'm not going to go into issues and stories for you unless you really insist, because then we won't really get into finishing what we need, yeah? But there've been so many problems with joint accounts. Because the thing is, right, both of you have access, and then it's not always something that where marriage is always going to be plain sailing, and then it leads to too many problems. Understand? Finances, keeping it separate. You can have a joint account, don't get me wrong, you can have a joint account in which you can place money in there, but don't make it their main account. Don't make it your main, keep your main account separate, okay? Keep your main account separate, and then you can have joint account where you put your, whatever you decide to put in there together, or he puts in there, whatever it may be, however you want to put it, however you can have a joint account. I'm not discouraging completely, but don't have a sole, like transfer your accounts into joint accounts. That's something I would say do not do. Okay?
Yes, master.
Okay, moving on. So these are just general advice in terms of what to do in terms of accounts and things, right? So hopefully any questions before we move on to this intimacy part? Are there any questions regarding the finances? No, I guess not. So if there are, obviously you can ask as we go along. Now we move on to the second major point that comes to maintaining a honeymoon period. So we're talking about maintaining this honeymoon period. Yeah. So if you sort out your finances, it will lead to, definitely lead to a lot of, problems solved. You get less problems, and you can maintain then your marriage. You can maintain the honeymoon period. So intimacy, and this is obviously from perspective of a husband here. Firstly, so from the husband's perspective, what the husband needs to do, meaning, yes. So this is what the husband should not make the marriage seem like a purchase, like I've bought you now kind of thing, right? So I can, in essence, utilize you however I wish and when I wish and the rest of it, right? And marriage is seemingly like something, and especially intimacy. Intimacy is, is something that you do. It's like a payment for services or something that I'm giving you a payment. My nafaqa I'm giving you, or I bought you a new dishwasher, or I bought you a new dryer, whatever it is, yeah. And I expect payment for it, and the payment is intimacy or something, right? Don't make it seem like this, because many people do that, and many people complain of this. Like it's like I have to pay him or something. It's like a chore. It's like I have to do something. Okay. So it shouldn't be like a payment for services. It should be a show of affection. It shouldn't be aggressive. or overly demanding when it comes to demanding intimacy, okay? Don't be aggressive or overly demanding in this. Rather, they should find the right balance when it comes to how they deal with their intimacy, okay? The balance needs to be, again, balance we're talking about, yes? That needs to be attained. The ego, definitely ego should not prevent from initiating. This is another common complaint of men, that I have to constantly initiate. I have to initiate as they, and make myself look like some sort of animal, like I'm some animal driven by desire, and always I'm wanting something, and she never initiates. And that's what he says. And I've sat there many times, and he says this comment, and she will obviously react saying that that's not true, because obviously he can't remember the very few times that she may have initiated. So, but the point is that you're going to have to understand as a man that your drive might be more, and you may have to initiate. And if you have to initiate, so what? Like, why should your ego be hurt if you have to initiate? Just because you have to always initiate doesn't make a difference. The point is, at the end result is you've got what you wanted. So if you have to initiate that, then so be it. You have to initiate that. Get over that. We have to get over that hurdle. Don't let ego play a part there. Should ensure that, obviously for the husband, he needs to ensure that the experience is something which is pleasurable for his wife. His wife should feel a pleasurable experience, and that she will also feel like initiating as well. In the future, she will also feel like initiating if he makes it a pleasurable, experience. But if he makes it something which is chorus, something which is, make her feel like as though she's, just paying him for something that he's done for her and the rest of it, right? And he demands it, or he gives her the hadith of you're going to spend the night being cursed and whatever else, and she just does because she has to comply. Then remember, you're not going to get this. You're not going to get this initiation. You're not going to get this mutual, feeling. You're just going to be very much one-sided. So that's that in terms, okay? So so making the experience something which is pleasurable for both of them. And a note is that obviously, if either partner is experiencing intimacy issues, then there's already clinics that can be visited. You can go to experts, go to the doctor. And because the reason I mention this is because I've dealt with many cases which needed doctors' advice, but they weren't willing to go to the doctor for some reason. They felt that this is not something you go to the doctor for. But if you're experiencing something which is problems, then you go to the doctors, and you go to clinics that will be able to help you, give you expert advice on this. That's the way to go about solving problems, because I've dealt with a few cases in which, because of these intimacy issues, it ended up in a breakup. It ended up in but they could have solved the problem if they had gone to the right people to solve the problem. But inshallah, this would give us an understanding. So this is the duties that the husband needs to make sure he does these things in order to make sure that he gets what he wants in terms of the intimacy. Obviously, this intimacy is something that the wife would want as well. And that's why we now talk about it from the wife's perspective.
Also, before we
what does she need to do?
Before we move on.
Yeah, go on, tell me.
Two finance questions. If a wife is working and the husband isn't, and the husband isn't able to provide suitable work for some time, he doesn't help in the home chores as well, how to go about this one?
A very common problem nowadays, that the first thing is, right, if the wife creates this what do you call spoiled somewhat mentality from the husband, whereby he can sit around and he'll have his wife working and she'll run the house, and then she'll also come home and do all the work, all the chores at home that she needs to do as well, and he's more or less doing nothing. Then the wife's feeding this, isn't it? That's why I say you're feeding his lazy attitude and approach to life. You're feeding it. I understand that if without you working, it's going to be struggling, but there needs to be something, There needs to be something. Sometimes you need to get somebody else involved, a third party, not family members, because family members don't end up solving problems, they create more problems. So you sometimes you sit down, you talk about it, that you help him to get a job, to get back into that working lifestyle. Because what it is with men, especially, once you get off that work, it's like you're very comfortable. And then on top of that, if your finances are being looked after by the wife, then it becomes even more comfortable, right? Because you just feel as though, why should I go? Why do I need to go to work? There's no reason. Yeah, so he becomes lazy. So he needs to understand this responsibility. I mean, there are some people who just have no sense of responsibility whatsoever, because they've been, somewhat spoiled by their own parents, which is a problem. Obviously, we should be doing that to our own children. Keep them in cotton wool, like as though they will never have this. They need to understand the sense of responsibility. They need to understand that they need to look after. It goes back to that ayat that we were talking about, the verse and the balance I was talking about, that the الرجال قوامون على النساء, that they are caretakers of the women, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done that. Why? Because not only do they look after them physically, but they also look after them in terms of their financial. And if they don't offer that, then that full circle we talked about is not maintained. So it's going to be a difficult marriage, put it that way, whereby if he is not fulfilling his duties that he is meant to fulfill. So if temporary is doable, something that you can get by, sometimes people lose their jobs, temporary is fine. But something that he's thinking of continuing long term, it's going to be problematic. So if he's not listening, then you're going to have to get third party involved, is what I say.
There's a follow-up to that. If it's only for like a short period of time, but whenever the wife asks him to help in the house home chores, his ego is hurt.
Yeah, this is it. This is the main issue. It shouldn't be, is it? It should not be that. Okay. I mean, what more can I say to that? He needs a talking to, and he needs to be told by third party, and that's why I say get a third party involved. He needs to be told that marriage is a balance, isn't it? So if you're expecting your wife, which I was going to talk about later, but I was going to talk about now, whilst we're on the issue now, there's a whole system that we're looking at in terms of marriage, right? So Shar'an, he provides, he's the breadwinner, he's the provider, and she looks after, because his right is that he has children with her, and then she looks after the children. So that's his right that he has over her as well. So there's a system, if we can understand that, the system of she's going to be looking after the things inside the home, and he's going to be looking after things outside, in essence, right? But not to say that I'm not trying to diminish women that do work outside, obviously, which we'll talk about, right? But I'm just talking about from a traditional and also from a Shari concept wise, if there's no need for her to work. But so if there's a role that needs to be played, isn't it? So you expect the wife, for example, a traditional man who you're talking about here, that he doesn't want to do the chores at home. So who does he expect the chores to be done by? He expects the chores to be done by his wife, right? So he's more of a traditional thinker then, yes? So if he's thinking down that route, then he can't then demand her to work as well. Because like on one side, you're saying, I'm adopting the traditional style, and then where it benefits you, you're adopting the Western style. So where is that? It's like you're just a very much imbalanced, one-sided, double standards type of way of looking at life, right? Where it benefits you, everything that benefits you, you take. So Western style of having the women working outside, you want to adopt that because it benefits your pocket. But when it comes to the chores, the Western style, which is that the husband helps out as well in the chores, you don't want to adopt that. That's not really a balance, is it? So you can't live a life like that. That's not the way to live. You can't pick and choose, right? You have to do both. So if you want to burden the wife with, so we were going from the balanced style, okay? I don't have a graphic to show you. Inshallah, I will try to do something for tomorrow about just to explain. But there's a perfect circle, as we say, a perfect circle, whereby if you stick to the traditional style, meaning that the wife is looking after the chores of the home and things like that, she's in essence the housewife, and he's the one looking after the things from outside, and he's the breadwinner. That's the traditional style, right? So that's a perfect circle now. The minute you start eating into her circle, meaning tell her that also you have to come outside and work as well, because I want you to have value for money, example. So he makes her work part-time, maybe even. So now he is eating into her side of the circle in essence. So it's gonna cause an imbalance, isn't it? So that imbalance needs to be then equally compensated. So if she is now the breadwinning that he was doing 100%, she is also doing 10%, 15%, 20% of that, then he's going to also have to compensate that 10%, 20%, whatever it is, in the chores, the home chores. So if she was doing 100% of the home chores before, but now you expect her to work 20% of her time, or 20% of that needs to be worked. So then that means 20% of the chores needs to be coming from you as well to maintain that balance, as we were saying. So hopefully this is making sense to people, right? So there needs to be a balance that needs to be given. You can't then load her with the work that she's going to as well, and then she comes home and does all the chores as well. Now, if you feel as though this is against my nature, this is against my nature that I'm going to be sweeping the floor, or I'm going to be mopping the floor, or I'm going to be cleaning skirting boards or whatever else, right? If that is against your nature and you feel that your ego is hurt by that, then employ somebody to clean then. You get plenty of cleaners, get them to come around and clean for you, get some of the chores that need to be done, get them, get that weight that is on the wife. You need to lighten that weight in other ways then. So you can't expect, this is unfair to expect the wife to continue doing all the chores that she was doing before, like a housewife, and then expect her to also work. This would be unfair. Just like so many men complain that, if they've been told to do certain chores when they're at home, do these chores, he'll be saying, the first thing he'll say that I've been at work all day, I'm tired. So does the woman not get tired or something? Does she not get tired as well? She's been working as well. So these are things that need to be taken into consideration. The balanced approach needs to be there. So the chores need to be helped out if you're going to do certain, if you're going to expect the wife to do certain things as well. Now, having said that, regardless, because I've touched the topic now, so regardless of, let's say the wife, she decides to be a housewife full on, and she's not expected to work. Even if she is doing just the housework and looking after the kids and whatever else, there still needs to be a degree of help. There needs to be some sort of help that's offered, just support that's there from the husband. There needs to be that as well to maintain things. Why? Is because, just to put it in perspective in a nutshell, right, without making the topic too lengthy, is that as a husband, as a man, you would say, you go work, it's a stressful day, you come home and you can switch off. You get time off, you get switch off, you can take a break, you can take a holiday, you can take, a week off from work. You get a little bit of time, right? The question is, if you're telling me that the wife is a housewife, that's her job and that's what she has to do, and I'm the breadwinner, I do that, then when does she ever switch off from that housewife? When does she get that time that I'll take a week off? I've got a couple of, I've come back from, work, and I can switch off now, I can wind down. When does she get that time? That's something that needs to be thought of. This is food for thought. This is things that these things that need to be taken into consideration. So I'm speaking very much biased towards the women right now. But hopefully you can understand the message coming through. Yes.
So I think that answers the follow-up question the sister asked as well now. And if in a case both of them are working, should the husband help her in her chores, or wife has to do all of it?
Yeah, so there needs to be, like I said, the balance. Inshallah, we'll see if we can try to make that into a graphic.
Inshallah. And from YouTube, there was one question about joint accounts. What about having a saving account that both spouses share?
Yeah, like I said, you can have a joint account, but don't have your wage directly going into the joint account. It's the joint account, which is you put, actively you want to put things into it. That's fine. It's up to you. Whenever have a joint account like that, that's that. I'll just leave it at that.
I think this might come later, but I'll just ask since the sister has asked. What's Mufti Saab's advice, as in how long should a person spend with one's spouse, as in duration of years, in order to fully trust them? Some husbands may expect one to be fully close and trust, and one may expect to share everything with one's spouse, or they may feel offended if you reserve or hide, i.e., amount of money in bank account, etc.
So, in terms of yeah, you have to judge that in terms of how open you are with one another. Yes, you will be open to a degree, right? But you're not going to be completely open, whereby you mention the smallest of thoughts as well. Like, you wouldn't do that. So, for example, let's just put in perspective. Let's say there was a person walking by, a man or a woman, depend on who you are right now that I'm speaking to. So there's a man or a woman walking by, and you found them quite handsome. You found them quite beautiful. Are you going to turn around to your wife and say that, yeah, I fancy that person? Or are you going to turn around to your husband and say, yeah, I quite like that person? No, you wouldn't. It's a thought that maybe, might be there in your brain, but it's not something you would mention, because you know that it's not going to go down well, right? Mm-hmm. So there are certain things, when you say that you have to be completely open and honest with each other. Are you going to be completely open and honest that I found this person attractive? No, you're not. It's not something that you would do, because why would you do it is the question. What benefit are you going to get? That's the question. So the question is, yes, be open, but be open about things that would give you benefit. Okay, where things will create more problems, then just don't talk about it. Not to say that you're hiding, okay, not hiding how much you earn or anything like that. It's just a thing that you don't just don't talk about the topic. Just don't mention it. And if it comes up, then work out how to deflect that topic onto something else. You understand me? Just change the subject or somehow. That's what I say. That's my personal advice on it. Because you're talking about joint accounts and finances again, yes?
G. And another question from YouTube. What about in situations where the husband doesn't expect the working wife to do all of the housework, but the stay-at-home mother-in-law does it?
There's a limit, isn't it, in terms of the mother-in-law doing it? How long is the mother-in-law going to be doing it for? Is the question. She's going to grow old, and bichari, she's been caring for you for that long. You want her to continue to do the chores. It's a bit unfair to expect the mother to be able to continue to do the chores, especially with possibly some help around now, isn't there? So it will create animosity between the mother and the wife. The mother will start to think that she doesn't help around, because she would have expected that all her life. She's been thinking, no, all her life, but like the last few years, where where her son is, getting married soon, and she's thinking help will arrive now, and that help comes in the form of nobody really. So it's going to create a bit of animosity between them. So why do you want to create that, is the question.
I think the question is, Mufti Saab, the husband doesn't expect the working wife to do the housework, but the mother-in-law expects the wife to do it.
Okay. Well, then there's going to have to be something, right? If you're going to stay with the parents, if you're going to stay with that mother who expects that certain chores to be done, then you're going to have to come to some sort of agreement. You both kind of have to sit down and work out, okay, what does my mother want you to do, and what does your mother want me to do, whatever it is, and work out something whereby the wife says that, well, I can't do this, or I can't manage to do this, it's not feasible for me. I don't have the time, whatever it is, or I can do this, I can offer this. You're going to have to be some sort of reasonable thing, isn't it? Because everyone has to push their weight a bit, right? So now that you've gone into another house, you're living with the in-laws, you're going to have to do certain things. It's something you're going to have to accept. And if you were living alone, you would have had to do certain things anyway, right? Because there would have been nobody else doing it. So certain things will be needed to be done. It just goes without saying. That's just the responsibility that comes with the marriage, right? So, but you're gonna have to work it out what you can offer, and then obviously the onus then would be on the husband to take that forward to his mother in the nicest way. That these are the things that she will do, so it doesn't create tension.
Ji. Inshallah.
Okay, but that's the juggle in it. That's the juggle of life you have if you're living with in-laws. You're gonna have to juggle that. you put yourself in that position because you choose to live with your parents. If you choose to live with your parents, you're going to have to learn to be that person on the fence, because you put yourself in that position. If you don't want to be in that position, then there's a simple solution, which is to move out.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you don't want to choose that option, then you're going to have to understand that you've put yourself in this position of being the person in the middle. So you're going to have to learn to juggle that.
Inshallah. We can continue with that.
Okay. So we're talking about the intimacy issues, and how to, best make this work between the two of you that doesn't create problems. And from the wife's perspective, what she needs to do, we're looking at here. Yes. So, before marriage, understand this one thing, and I think this one thing will drill it home for many women here. Yes, that from before marriage, the mother takes care of the son, right? So that husband that you've married, yeah, his mother was caring for him, including cooking, cleaning for him, washing his clothes, ironing his clothes, everything, giving motherly love. And in fact, most of these things that now you're taking on, for example, you're cooking for him, maybe you're cleaning his clothes, maybe you're ironing for him, maybe you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. Most of these things, many of these things, his mother did much better than you do now. Any mother can do that better. Yeah. When you become a mother, you would also do things much better for your child than anyone else would do, because a mother would give her heart for the child. Mother will do everything for the child. I'm again talking generally here. Yes. So generally, the mother will do things for the child, for the son. So now the question is, for that boy, for that man that gets married, is, I've got married to this girl now. I've got married to this woman. She's my wife. What is she doing for me that my mother didn't do anyway? My mother did everything for me. She did cooking, cleaning, and everything. She did much better, right? And what is this woman giving to me that my mother was not giving to me, is the simple question, without spelling it out. I'm sure everyone understands. So that's one of the main things, after marriage. Many of these responsibilities are taken care of by the wife, isn't it? They're taken on. Now the question is, what is the wife doing that the mother wasn't already doing, isn't it? That's the question. So I'm sure everyone can answer that question in their heads without me spelling it out, right? Yeah. So intimacy now is something which is encouraged in Islam. Many women consider or think of, have this, mindset, have this understanding that intimacy, being intimate, is something which is maybe a little bit dirty. It's not something which is, so it's nothing like that. Intimacy with your husband is rewarding. It's an ibadah, it's a worship, it's something encouraged in Islam. And, you get reward for it. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned a hadith about this as well. And, obviously it's when done with the right intentions as well. So it's something that is not, we need to look at it in a negative way. Okay. It's something you need to look at in a different mindset sometimes. Okay. It's something that we need to look at. So remember, just as obviously women also have requirements, women have requirements of needing somebody to be emotionally there. They need somebody to sometimes, cry to, somebody to listen, somebody that can listen to them, somebody that can just speak their heart out to. They need that, right? You need that. So likewise, a man requires somebody physical needs, because a man has physical needs more than emotional needs. So this is something that, women need to take into consideration. Then, just a simple example I'll give you, right? So I'm sure we can understand from this question that I posed here, the primary, what do you call, objective of a man getting married, in essence, right? Not to say that's the only objective. I'm talking about one of the main objectives of getting married, right? So now you take an example of a heater, right? The primary purpose of this heater is to give you heat in it. You buy a heater, yeah, you bought a heater in the winter, and it gives you heat in your room. But instead of giving you heat, right, it doesn't give you so much heat now. It just gives you light. So it's one of those glow heaters. It gives you light. It gives you amazing light, right? It lights up your whole room for you. But it doesn't give you the heat that you need. It doesn't give you the heat. Are you going to keep that heater is the question. You're going to carry on keeping that heater. But it gives you light. It's giving you benefit. It's giving you light, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the question. So all of these things, the wife's going to say, I do everything for him. I do cooking for him. I do cleaning for him. I wash his clothes. I do everything for him. Ask the question. Ask this question to yourself. That is this being looked after? If this is not being looked after, then you know where your problems lie. You know where your problems lie. Does it make sense, everybody? Okay, I'm trying to be as nice as I can about it, right? But obviously I need to be direct. I need to spell it out in the most kindest terms and the kindest ways. Hopefully people can understand. Is that you need to understand where the primary function is and reason is, you would say, just like this heater example I was talking about, right? So you don't want that, the heater is then replaced, hopefully, right? You don't want that, right? You want to make sure that the problems are fixed. So understand it from this perspective, please, everybody. This will only make your life easier, inshallah, if you understand it like this. Are there any questions about this?
Not so far, so if there is any questions, I'll cover them to you, inshallah.
Just checking. Yeah. So in terms of what needs to be done, right? So things that needs to be done, right? If the husband calls, this is the one that somebody asked me a question about. So if the husband calls his wife to his bed and she refuses and causes him to sleep, in a state of being angry and upset with her, then the angels curse her till the morning, isn't it? We know this famous hadith, right? The angels curse her till the morning. Many people understand this to be very biased, unfair on women. Why should she be cursed? He just had an argument with her and, he wants her to come to bed and she's not going to comply, obviously. He has to understand that. He's just had an argument with her maybe or whatever else, right? So you can't do this. This is unfair, many people would say. So why do the angels curse her is the question, right? So first understand that this hadith, when you hear this hadith and you understand the implications of it, the next time your husband calls you to bed, would you refuse? I don't think you would, because you don't want to be spending the night being cursed. You don't want to do that. So it's to deter the wife. This hadith, the way it's mentioned, is to act as a deterrent, yes, for the wife to refuse, for reasons such as an argument earlier on the day or something, right? Because I'll explain regarding that in conflict resolution what I mean by this, okay? Inshallah, people will understand this better. But that's one reason. Second is because there are, multiple harms and multiplicity of the harms associated with rejecting him. So if you reject him trying to approach you, right? If you reject that and you say no at that time, maybe because you had an argument earlier on the day, whatever, or maybe because you just don't feel like it, whatever it is, this will lead to so many harms. Firstly, understand that by rejecting him, his desire is still there. That desire still remains. It's not like you rejected him and his desire is gone. Yeah, maybe desire in you will not be there, but that desire is still there. Okay? Understand that. Now, obviously, what will he do? But he'll seek other avenues. He'll seek another avenue to fulfill his desire, many of which will be haram. So he'll go on to haram means of fulfilling his desires now. And he will even justify it, saying that she rejected me is her fault. So he'll put the blame on her as well, which is unjustified, by the way, for men. That you can't put the blame on her. You have to learn to control yourself, or you have to make sure that you build her to be in a mood whereby she doesn't reject. So that's the job of the man, which we'll talk about later. But from the woman's perspective, understand that there are so many harms associated with rejecting him. So firstly, his desire will not go away. He'll just seek alternative means to fulfill his desire. You hope that it's not something in a form of being unfaithful to you. So I don't see any other way anyway, but he will feel rejected. And I mean, this is the worst feeling a person can feel, right? Imagine feeling this feeling of rejection. The feeling of rejection is not a nice feeling for any human to go through, okay? If somebody sees you, for a rishta, for example, and you really like them, you're thinking, yeah, this is promising. You want to say, yeah, they reject you. How does it make you feel? But it's not even somebody that you know for so long or anything like that. It's just you saw them once and they rejected you. But it makes you feel insecure about the way you look or maybe whatever else. And it's a very horrible feeling, the feeling of rejection.
Sorry, Mufti,
Yeah.
Can you just repeat that last part where you just said it kind of broke up?
It broke up, right?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, the sound is fine now.
Okay. So we're talking about the feeling of rejection. So this feeling is something which is not something any human wants to go through. This feeling is not a nice feeling at all for any human. So just to put it in perspective, I'm trying to say how the man will feel at this time. So remember, he's getting this feeling from somebody who is his wife, this feeling of rejection. And that is very, very detrimental to their relationship. Imagine that feeling when you've seen you're looking in beginning of marriage. I'm talking about before, whilst you're even looking for a prospect. Yes. So you're looking for a prospect and you had this meeting with this prospect to get married, meaning, and you liked them, you quite liked them, and you were going to say yes. But when the answer from that side came, they said no, they rejected you. How down putting that feeling is there, how demoralizing that feeling is. It's a very, very bad feeling. You don't feel good about yourself. You feel, you look at all the things and you look at, maybe is it the way I look? Is it, you start feeling insecure about yourself. And that feeling is what this man is being put through, this husband is being put through when he's being rejected. Okay. Now look, at the time, I understand that at the time, because you had an argument, I used this example, right? That you had an argument earlier on in the day. And then in the mind, you're going to be thinking that, yeah, don't worry, come, I'll show you next time you come, I'll show you. So that's the feeling inside, that feeling of spite and the feeling of trying to get one over him, a feeling of, revenge in essence, bitter revenge, yes, bittersweet. So it's like that, you have that in your mind. So the next time he does come and approach you, you reject him. And that's that feeling that he's going to now feel rejected. Yes. The point is, yes, at that point, at that moment, you might get that inner happiness, you can say, that inner happiness of what? That, yeah, I showed you now, innit? Next time you shouldn't argue with me, yeah? So I'll show you who's boss, yeah? Like that kind of feeling, I'm saying, yeah? Not necessarily exactly that, but that kind of a feeling that you would get. But that's a temporary feeling of maybe a bit of satisfaction that you got one over him. But these are so many harms that it's not worth it. It's just simply not worth it. So many harms that are going to come your way because of that. So, the second thing, the third, he will not feel like approaching you again. So that's it. He will feel like, okay, you want to reject me? No problem. I don't need you. And that's what he'll feel. He doesn't need you. And nowadays, the amount of pull toward this haram is just tremendous. It's just so much pull to haram. And I'm sure women understand the amount of pull there is towards haram. And, just the work environment as well, how he'll go to work and he'll be, upset, and maybe there's a colleague there, she'll ask that, what's happened, you okay? And yeah, I'm just going through a hard time. Oh, what's happening? And he'll confide in her, yeah, maybe, and he'll start seeing a good side in her because he only sees the good side of her. So then what will happen? He'll feel as though she's the one. I got married to the wrong one. And then, things start spiraling into things that you don't like. And before you know it, some things have happened. So these things can happen in it. And it all started from what? This one feeling of rejection. I'm not putting it down to that. Obviously, like I said, the man needs to learn how to control as well. But don't add to this. Don't add to it. Don't start it off. Don't spark it off. It just creates more problems for yourself, And then he may try to get, he may try to get one back on you as well, right? So you've got him. You should know what kind of a character he is, that he's a spiteful person as well. And he'll just get one over me. He'll say that, okay, don't worry, you're rejecting me now. I'll show you who's boss. So he'll do something else. And, it just starts, it will only compound a problem rather than solve the problem. So by rejecting him, yes, it will never solve the problem. Because remember, look, the problem is he's showing you, his affection, his desire. That desire will not go away. Okay, it's not like you rejected him and his desire is gone away. His desire will remain. He'll just seek alternative means. So this is something which needs to be taken into consideration. And because of these reasons, can we see how many reasons there are? There's so many more reasons mentioned by Muhaddithun. as to why this is the case. You know, this she's spending the night being cursed is to deter her, to make sure she doesn't go down the route of harming herself so much and harming their relationship so much. So this is the reason, okay? And obviously his frustration will then show in other aspects of daily life. So in the morning, you know, he felt rejected at night time, maybe. So in the morning, you know, let's say they were getting ready for work or whatever, and she made a cup of tea for him, and she presented it quickly, and he's having his tea, and he just slams the tea on the floor. Like, what happened there? He slams the tea on the floor. How many times have I told you 2 sugars for me? What is this? And you're like, oh, calm down, calm down. I put more sugar in, no problem. It's just solve the problem, right? Just tell me, put more sugar in. And you're thinking, where did this come from? It's come from somewhere, isn't it? It's come from somewhere. It's that feeling that he's got in the back of his mind, that is that frustration that is now penting frustration, maybe sometimes for a few days, and then it erupts, isn't it? The volcano will erupt and it will come out in other things, and you won't know where it's come from, and you will think that you're confused, that what warranted his reaction this way, and then you will be even more distraught that why did he react in this way? Now, I didn't do anything here. I'm very confused. I don't know why he reacted in this way. Well, there's something behind it, isn't there? Put it this way, there's some more things that you need to get down to the root of, which is creating frustration in him. So this is, in a nutshell, you would say, there are many things here to talk about, but this is the nutshell why this applies here in terms of the, from the wife's perspective.
Some questions.
Yes.
How then should she avoid becoming sinful and accommodate for him if she is absolutely not up for it in that particular time in which he requests?
So that depends on why she's not up for it, right? If it's just a mood thing, then I'm sure it doesn't take too long for, you know, to change that mood. And obviously the onus will be on him to then, you know, get her into the mood. So for example, let's say it is something that she often feels that I'm not in the mood, then when there's a normal time during the day, sometime when they're talking, when they're sitting, then just tell him that, look, sometimes I'm not in the mood, but I'm not saying you can't change my mood, but you can't just force yourself afterwards, because that's not nice, isn't it? It makes me feel as though I just have to do something, I just have to comply, whereas it shouldn't be like that. It should be something mutual. So it's then understood by him that he needs to do certain things to then to change her mood. So she may not be in a mood, that's understandable, but then you know, they would discuss things. Then she would say that if you touch me here, or if you do this, if you do that, then, you know, this will make me, you know, better in the mood or whatever. Also, these are things that they can talk about beforehand. Then when he realizes that she's not in the mood, then he can do certain things. But if it's to do with, for example, just physical tiredness, being drained, being you know, being ill, you know, physically not being well, whatever else, then he needs to take that into consideration, isn't it? And that would be, I don't see why any husband would not take that into consideration if they have a loving relationship, because the husband cares for his wife and he understands that he doesn't want to harm her. So if they have a loving relationship, and which we've been talking about all this time, how to do that, then there's no reason why he will not take you know, her feelings and whatever else into consideration. But it can't be something constant, like being drained. You know, I'm constantly drained, and you're gonna have to work out what the root cause of that is. If that is because she's working, you know, every day she's working a long shift, then the husband needs to take it into consideration. That is that something needed then? Is that something that I want her to then do? Maybe go part-time, or maybe don't work at all. You know, because we can't live a life like this, for example. So whatever works with them, they're going to have to talk about it and come to some sort of solution. So it depends on the reason.
If they had an argument, it only makes sense why the woman would not want to have relations. Can that not be a valid reason for not being cursed? So
that's something we'll talk about later. Is that okay? If this is going to come in the conflict resolution as to what I mean by that, okay? If they had an argument, then is it a valid reason and everything else? So inshallah, we will discuss that later.
Inshallah.
That's it?
That's it, sir.
Okay, so moving on. Now, the next part is the children. So one thing before we finish, that women, in a nutshell, to conclude the intimacy parts, that women should not use the intimacy as negative leverage, as would say, that, you know, I'm gonna, which we talked about earlier, if you remember, like I'm gonna get one over him or something like that. That should not be done at all, because then it leads to too many harms. There needs to be a mutual understanding between the two of them, and they need to discuss certain things about their intimacy as well. Remember, obviously, but as humans, we have needs. There are needs, okay? On a general perspective of things, and a general spectrum of things, the man may have more needs when it comes to intimacy, but it's something that a woman needs to take into consideration, okay? As far as we learn, what we learn from our holy prophet, our beloved prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's many incidences as to explain how, you know, it's not only about you know, a man just being somebody who's going to control, remember, right? There needs to be a degree of halal outlet as well. So we have plenty of incidents. I'm sure some of them are very famous and people know about as well, you know, but it's not something that, you know, Rasulullah SAW mentioned in a hadith about fi bud'i ahadikum sadaqah, that there's a sadaqah reward when you sleep with your wife. And the Sahaba asked that, well, we get reward for fulfilling our desires. And Rasulullah says, yeah, if you had fulfilled your desires in a haram way, would you not have got sin? So then if you fulfilled it in a halal way, then why would you not get reward? Okay, so these are things that you need to put in perspective as well, that you're there in a marriage and you are fulfilling one another in not just in a physical way. Obviously, the husband needs to do his role in fulfilling his tasks as well, his roles as well, his duties as well, responsibilities. And then you will have that reciprocation from the wife, where she will, inshallah, comply to his needs. And there needs to be discussion. There needs to be dialogue, is what I say. That if you feel that you need more, or whatever else it may be, there needs to be discussion. There needs to be dialogue with the wife that, look, this is my issue and this is what I'm going through. I need a bit of help from you. So then, inshallah, they can discuss. And if there's further need, then you can even take advice from somebody else, a third party. Okay, but that's the most I would, I think, say on this, trying to be as vague as I can without being too direct. But hopefully people understand that, yeah? Now, the next part is children, right? Now, what happens generally is, obviously we have children. Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala grant everyone blessful children as well. So you have children, and a typical case is that the wife will, you know, before marriage, we're talking about before children, you were saying, after marriage, before children, the husband and wife, the whole attention is on each other, right? And they're spending all their time with one another. And there's nothing else there, right? There's just the two of them. But when they have a child, naturally, the time now gets a little bit divided, isn't it? So naturally, the wife will now be spending a lot more time with her baby, with her child, and rightfully so, that she will be. So now what will happen is the husband will start to become a little bit more sidelined. And this then results in them becoming slowly, a bit more distanced from one another. And as they become more and more distanced from one another, then there becomes like this big vacuum between the two of them. They don't really get on anymore. They don't really understand each other. And soon enough, they're on two completely different pages. You know, he doesn't give her the attention. She doesn't give the attention to him. But eventually what happens, eventually the children grow old enough, they get married and move out sometimes. And then they're left again, the two are left. But because they've grown so apart, they don't even know how to hold a conversation. And unfortunately for many of our parents, that's the way it is. They don't even know how to hold a conversation together. It's like when they want to talk to each other, they're at each other. They're like, they'll just be telling each other off or speaking in that way. It's like, well, is that how you speak to each other? Like, and they can't even sit in the same room together. It's like they'll spend 5 minutes in the same room, and then one of them will walk away. One of them will find an excuse to go into, go upstairs or go into the kitchen or whatever else, just to, it's just that completely gone and grown apart. And you don't want that to happen. You understand? You don't want to grow so apart that that one person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And remember, this is not just the rest of your life. After our life, this dunyawi life, this worldly life, you go into Jannah and you're still going to be with your partner, remember, yeah? You're still going to be with your... So this relationship that continues in Jannah, inshallah, Allah give us all there, yes? I mean, Ya Rab, that relationship, where we neglect that relationship, that we don't pay attention to that relationship, and that's something that we need to really pay attention to. We need to draw attention to this, that, we have children, no doubt you have children, but if you don't maintain and nurture your marriage, then you will slowly grow apart. That's what will happen. After having children, the attention of the mother is split between the children and the husband. And this leads to the husband feeling neglected due to less time. They don't have less time together anymore. And this then continues all the while that children grow up until their children eventually move out, like I said. So, however, when the children do eventually move out, the parents get time alone now, once again, but they feel awkward in each other's company, and they've lost how to communicate with one another. And now they don't know how to show affection to one another. They don't know anything like that anymore. So they live a life, a very formal life, and unfortunately it becomes not a very comfortable life for them, or a very happy life. So therefore, even after having children, spouses must take, make a bit of effort, exert a bit of effort to make time for each other, spend a bit of time together as well. It doesn't have to be so much time, because obviously it's understandable that a lot of the time will go, especially when the children are young, will go on the children. But, you don't want the partner to feel neglected. That's important. I mean, that works for both, for husband and wife, spending time with one another. It doesn't mean you have to spend time alone with one another. I've mentioned alone here, but sometimes spending time as a family as well will build a bond between you as well. But there needs to be this effort, this attention that's shown to the marriages. That understood, everybody, yeah? Hopefully you understand this. So that's that children's slide. Any questions? Okay, so that's the how to maintain a lifelong honeymoon period.
So what's the question?
Yes.
What are the limits of being affectionate towards your spouse in front of children and other family members?
In front of children, obviously. So that's to determine in accordance to, what you feel is appropriate. Some people will think that hugging is appropriate, is fine. And we want to show that to our children, that this is what you do in front of, this is how you would deal with your spouse. So an incident comes to mind where the nephew of Aisha radiallahu anha. So Aisha anha's brother Abdurrahman, he had a son who was married to, he's married to his wife. So he walks in, he comes home, and he just comes home and it does his salam. And so Aisha anha, being the auntie, obviously, she calls him. She says, what stopped you from, when you entered the house, what stopped you from going up to your wife and giving her a kiss? Why did you not do that? Why did you, even if a kiss is on the cheek, meaning a cheek, kiss on the cheek or something, right? So why did you not show that affection towards her? So it shows, isn't it, that tarbiyah shows a bit of understanding that the elders sometimes need to show to express to the younger ones that, you need to express that love to your wife as well sometimes. And wife, same thing. Sometimes you need to, but being a bit, going overboard, being inappropriate, obviously that would be something which would be not needed, and which would take away the modesty in the children as well. But like, for example, some people don't even hold hands in front of their children. And I think that's probably taking it overboard. You need to show to the children that, depends on their age as well. Obviously, it does depend on the age, that how much you expose them to, but they need to learn through example of how to behave with their spouse. So that's something, that balance needs to be approached. But definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
No, that was it, Musa.
Okay, so hopefully this settles us in terms of how to maintain, like I said, a lifelong honeymoon period. And that should give you, inshallah, a happy life, like we said, a happy married life. Now, lastly comes to our final section here, which is conflict resolution. There's no doubt that every marriage will have some, sometimes you'll have ups and downs. So you'll always have a bumpy ride sometimes here and there. But the question is how you get through that. So expect for the inevitable to happen. It's going to happen. But the approach is very important. So approaches to conflict resolution, which I think will, inshallah, answer some of the questions that some people were posing today as well. Inshallah, we'll finish soon as well. But understand, firstly, that people have differing approaches to solving conflict. Yeah, so different people have different ways of solving conflict, and understand and appreciate that. Okay, so firstly, largely men, but obviously anyone can have this kind of a concept. So largely men, what do? They deal with issues by either letting them pass. What they do, they let them pass. What they do, they'll think that time will be the best heal here. They won't want to discuss the issues. They won't want to sit down and discuss it. And I'm sure many people would be nodding their heads right now and thinking, yeah, that's my husband. Yeah. So he won't want to sit down and actually talk about it, right? MashaAllah. So what will be is that what he might even do is he'll fill up your life with a bit of positives. So he'll do all the positives that he can think of, like such as, maybe even buy you a gift, maybe buy you some flowers, or he'll smile at you, or he'll give you a handshake, or he'll talk to you nicely. That is anything you like, or anything that is you're like, you just had argued with me. Why are you being fake for? Why are you trying to be extra nice now? You know that you've done wrong, and that's how the feeling will be, isn't it? Hey, make a cup of tea, mashallah. Yeah, he'll make you a cup of tea. So he'll do things for you, yeah, because he'll try to fill up your life with a bit more positives that you can think of, all the positives, that there'll be so many positives that outweigh that one negative that you had, that one argument that you may have had. Yes. So he'll try to outweigh that with so many positives that he thinks that there's no, now that's gone away in it. That's forgotten. The issue that you had, it's forgotten. Now it's in the past, it's gone. So this is their way, this is his way, if it's a him, obviously, but this is his way of getting closure. His way is to just, let it be, let time heal it, and do so many positives that, inshallah, the problems will be overlooked. So that's the way he deals with it, or that's the way that this person, this personality deals with problems in their life. And appreciate that that's them dealing with a problem. Remember, it's not that they're not dealing with it. That's their way of dealing with it. That's the way they live. That's the way they can live. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's one way that some people choose to solve problems. Obvious other way is the other way, which generally women prefer, I noticed, is that they like to discuss the issue. Yeah, sometimes in detail, sometimes whatever, but they want to discuss the issue to determine the cause and thereafter attain closure on the issue. So they want closure by having their say. I want you to hear my side of it. I never had a say. I didn't get the chance to express how I felt. So I want you to hear that. And that's what some people choose to, their personality is that they want to discuss the issue. They want to get down to they want to even pinpoint out the cause, and they want to come up with a solution so that this problem doesn't occur again. Now, naturally, we can understand, logically speaking, this is the way to solve a problem. This is the way to solve a problem. But these are two ways that people adopt. These are two, people adopt these two ways, do different ways, two different, depending on the personality. And they think that they solve a problem by in this way. They don't actually solve the problem, but what they do is they enable themselves to be able to live a happy life in this way. They carry on living. They carry on living in this way. And if you analyze, many of our older generation were in this way. Many of our older generation they lived like this. So it doesn't matter if the partner was somebody who was this way, that wanted to discuss the issues. But in time, by living your life with the person that's like this, deals with the issues like this, it will rub off onto you. and you will become a person like this as well. And soon in time, maybe 10 years, 15 years time, you will think that, you know what, it's not worth it. Let's just let it be. And this is the way he was always dealt with it. And so be it. Some people, 10, 15, 20 years time, they snap then. They can't handle it. They're like, no, all my life I've been tortured. And then they seek a divorce 20 years, 30 years later. So it depends on what works for you, is what I'm saying. Just appreciate, though, that there are different approaches here. These are different approaches to conflict resolution. But obviously, logically speaking, resolving the issue would only be by actually getting down to the cause and then, mitigating that cause, that inshallah doesn't occur ever again. And that's the way. Okay, so understand this though, yeah, because many people, they especially women, get worked up over him brushing under the carpet and him not dealing with the problem. Well, he is dealing with the problem, but he's dealing with it his own way. And if you don't want him to deal with it this way, then quite simply stop feeding him that. Stop feeding him that he has dealt with the problem by then, acting so positively after he's done these things for you, like he thinks, because now you're okay, he thinks the problem's gone away. But in your head, the problem's not gone away. So you need to talk to him about that you need to express to him that just because you did one of those two things, I do like what you did, no problem, I appreciate it, but doesn't mean the problem's gone away. Okay, doesn't mean that. And you need to talk to him about that. So he realizes that she needs closure, I need closure. Okay, and this is the general thing. Okay, hopefully people understand this one. So once you understand this, that there are different approaches to this conflict, so what do you do about it then? The question is, so now you need to learn to accommodate these differing approaches. So first thing is determine how your spouse prefers to deal with conflict. Work out how is my partner, how is my husband, how is my wife, how do they deal with it? Which approach is it that they prefer? Is it the talking, sitting down one, or is it actually something in between, or is it something like just carrying with so many positives? So which one is it? Now, if both of you are of the same, you solve problems with the same method, then go ahead, carry on with life, right? No problems. Carry on in your way of solving your problems. But this is the general case, which is that if, however, one of you prefer to let things pass, one of you, whoever it may be, one of you prefer to let things pass, whilst the other one obviously prefers that you discuss the issue, that's what you prefer to do, then you must accommodate your partner. It's very important that you accommodate your partner, because once you've recognized this is recognition, yeah, you've determined your spouse prefers this other way. So then accommodate that your spouse. This is very important. And that accommodation will be done by how we come to an agreement. This is what I would say to do. And this will work for, inshallah, this universal plug will work for all, inshallah, is come to an agreement to let things pass for minor or one-off issues. So it's a one-off issue, minor thing that happened. He comes along and he gives you a gift, or he comes along and, maybe even say sorry. Let it pass. Let it be. Don't make an issue out of it. You understand me? Just let it go. Okay? For major or recurring issues, if this issue that recurring is happening over and over again, then come to an agreement for both of you, meaning discuss this, talk, sit down and discuss that, if it's recurring issues, then we're going to have to deal with it my way. We're going to have to deal with it by discussing the issue and getting down to the root and solving the problem. That's what we want to do. Okay, so this inshallah will work, because both of you will get some satisfaction that your way has worked to some degree as well. You understand? So obviously the only working out you'll have to do is what you determine to be minor and what you determine to be major. That's why I said, one-off issues probably be minor and a recurring issue will be something major. But that's not blanket ruling, because sometimes a one-off issue could be something very major as well. So it'll just be something that you're going to have to mutually agree with or discuss it at that time, that for me, this was a major issue. So if it's a major issue, then you have to discuss it. That if it's a minor issue, then just let it be. Okay? So this is the way to deal with these problems. Hopefully people understand that.
So just a question.
Yes.
What can a wife do to be able to balance motherhood and being a good wife to her husband?
I don't think it takes too much to do. It's just making sure that you look after him, isn't it? Looking after him, as well as you know, caring for your children together, you know, having a home, a family, you know, caring, loving relationship between the two of you. That's it, really. I don't think there's you know, so much that a man would demand. There's not so much that you need to do for one another. It's just working together, really. You understand? Having that attention sometimes, the smallest of things, you know, um, just appreciating and considering one another and being there for one another, really. And that's it, really. There's not too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Master.
Anything else?
No, that was it.
So should we call it a day, or should we continue?
الأمر إليك.
Okay,
Okay, so
we've got let me just see. I'm just gonna, we've got around about what, 10, got a few slides still left. Okay, okay, I think we'll end off 2 more slides and then we'll end off, I think. Yeah, everybody, we'll just do 2 more slides because this will give us food for thought, inshallah. So 2 causes of conflict, I would say. The 2 main causes is, one is a passive way of, you know, that causes conflict is that not fulfilling the needs of marriage that were aforementioned. If you don't fulfill the needs that you know, we have in our marriage, so we talked about that, right? In terms of a balanced marriage, how to have a balanced marriage. I'm sure people can remember all of that, right? So these are the needs that are there in a marriage, and if you don't fulfill these needs, meaning from a man's perspective, is not fulfilling the wife's need, or the wife's physical, sorry, the wife's emotional as well as the financial needs, and the husband is not the security needs and everything else, right? And he's not being that that caretaker, as you would say. And from the woman's perspective, she's not looking after the husband in terms of the physical needs as well, not being that wife, being available and being there for him. Then you're going to have a conflict. It's going to be conflict, and this is something that we won't be doing anything about. It's not something you're actually actively doing, but it's something that's going to be things that you're not in essence doing. And by not doing things is going to cause conflict. Does that make sense? What we mean by passive here? Yeah, meaning you don't have to actually actively do anything. So, but the other one is active way. So one is a passive, the other is active, is by behaving in an angry way, for example, which men generally do, or verbally abusive, which women generally do. You know, if you act in this way, behave in a physically, you know, angry way, or you're behaving in a verbally abusive way, then you're going to have an active cause of conflict. So this is a passive way of causing conflict between the two of you, and this is an active way of causing conflict between the two of you. Does that make sense?
G. So
Okay. Now, to solve this, you know, you've got, you know, behavioral issues. You've got issues that are, you know, so you need to solve these issues, isn't it? Okay. So learn firstly the triggers and prevent them escalating. So you learn the triggers, that what triggers my, for example, I'm talking from a woman's perspective now, what triggers my husband to be so angry? Why does he get angry like this? What triggers it? Is it that I'm doing something? Is it something I'm saying? Is it the way I'm speaking? Is it something I'm not doing? What is it that's causing the anger and rage? Okay, there's something, there's a trigger. So learn those triggers. And from a man's perspective, understand that what makes my wife, you're saying that she is verbally abusive towards me, then what makes her become so verbally abusive? What is it that I'm doing? What's triggering her? So then you need to learn the triggers. Once you've learned the triggers, then prevent those triggers, prevent from happening, and then you stop them escalating. Okay, so this is very important. Stop them escalating. Escalating means everybody, this is now self-reflecting. So everybody realizes that I get angry, for example, to a certain degree, and I constantly get angry, or that I'm being verbally abusive. Okay, so you get to a stage where you can't control it anymore. Your verbal abuse is coming out and you can't control it anymore. Likewise, you're being angry and you can't control it anymore. You're just going to be start slamming doors and throwing things and whatever else, right? So this gets to a stage which you can't control. But before it gets to that stage which you can't control, it started from somewhere which you were able to control. So learn what those starting points are, that, you know what, as soon as I start cursing, for example, as soon as I start swearing and cursing, I then move on to a higher degree of anger. So I don't want to start doing that. So as soon as that curse first takes place, that first swear word comes out of your mouth, you need to learn that, you know what, I need to stop. I need to do something to change my environment, walk out, do something. So this is what you need to do. If there is denial of the problem, if you think that no, there's no trigger, or there's no, you're denying that there's even anger or verbal abuse, if there's a denial of anger, you may want to record. So if the person is denying that I don't get angry like this, no, I don't verbally abuse you, then you know what? I say to record the person, whoever it is, record when they are angry or abusive. Then later on, when they've calmed down, can I show you something, please? Don't get angry about it. Okay, I only did this for constructive purposes, to make you understand. So then this will force the person to confront their anger and abuse. So I've dealt with this. There was one issue that I dealt with was, a husband would become very violent, meaning not physically, but he would just be throwing things and slamming things and whatever else, right? But later on, he would deny it. He would say, no, I never got that angry. We're talking about, I didn't do that. So I told the woman that, you know what, just record him once in it. Just record him and show it to him. The next time I saw them, he was a changed man. He was like, I can't believe this was me. I actually saw my reaction. I couldn't believe that was me in the image in that picture. Oh, this is too much. And then I need to sort this problem out. And then he actually realized what he needs to sort out now. So if there's a denial, sometimes this might work. Without being spiteful about this though, this is going to have to be very tactful in the way you do this. Otherwise, it'll seem as though you're just trying to be, you're just trying to put down the person. So this is this. Are there questions?
Yes, Muftī sir. What understanding should the wife have regarding the husband seeking a second wife, and what should his mentality be when he does so?
Shall we leave that question to the end?
Yeah, inshallah.
Okay, we're going to leave that question right at the end when the Q&A comes. I think we'll talk about that then.
Inshallah. And there was a question that related to something that we've done earlier in one of the previous sessions. I'll leave that till the end of this session, inshallah, as well.
Okay.
What if the husband doesn't care about his wife and even isn't intimate with her, or he abandons her?
If the husband is doing this.
Sorry?
If the husband is doing this, meaning, yeah?
Yeah.
So then you need to work out the root cause. That's why I say work out the root cause as to why this is happening. There's multiple reasons as to why it could happen. The root cause needs to be identified. Once the root is identified and worked out, then you need to solve the problem from the root, right? Okay. But obviously this needs to be done sooner rather than later, because sometimes you try to work out the cause of the issue too late. That's just general. I'm not talking about just intimacy problems. I'm talking about generally. Generally, people, what they do is they leave it until it hits the fan, until you brush it under the carpet, until it doesn't fit anymore. Okay. Now, what happens is you try to solve the problem now, but I'm afraid, to be quite blunt, sometimes it's too late. It's like falling off the cliff. It's gone. Your relationship's gone. It's finished. It's gone off the cliff. And if it has, and you know that there's nothing you can do, then there is nothing you can do. What can you do? You tell me. There's nothing. You can't wave a magic wand and suddenly everything will go back to how it was again, hunky-dory. It's not going to happen. So you're either going to have to work out what the root is and solve the problem from the root. And if it's something you can't solve, then there's nothing you can do about it. You've done it too late, maybe. You've caused too much damage, maybe. It's like going back to the flower example. If you looked at your flower too late, right, and it's now withered away, and now you're trying to revive it, you're putting all the fertilizer in it. It's too late, isn't it? The flower's dead. It's not going to work. You're going to have to buy a new one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So without being too, about it, but that's the way. Sometimes it's too late. So we'll talk about that towards the end of these conflict issues, about how to solve that, inshallah, as well. But answering that question. Are there more?
No, that was it, Musa. I'll leave the last question till the end, inshallah.
Okay, one more slide, inshallah, I think, and then we'll call it a day, which is that there are obviously hidden conflict, hidden reasons of conflict as well. So this is going to be a bit of exercise, inshallah, for everybody. Okay, everybody read this message here, yeah? This is a text message that the one partner sent to the other, okay? Okay, so it said, I can't come, I'm busy. Okay, so how do people read this? I mean, how would you read it? Would you read it in a positive light or negative light?
Most of the time it would be a negative light.
Negative, yeah? Negative, yeah? Everyone's saying negative. Negative, negative. Negative light. Depends. Jalo, mashallah. I'm saying depends. Yeah, somebody's saying depends now. Yeah. No, it does depend. It depends, isn't it? Tell me the positive side. Tell me how it depends for those people who are saying it depends. He genuinely saying that I can't come right now because I'm busy. I'm very busy at work right now. So yeah, they just might be too busy right now. So I'm working, right? For example, right? I'm working in my restaurant, and you know, at iftar time, it becomes really busy area. MashaAllah, yeah, we're talking about iftar now, yes. So iftar time becomes really busy, innit? Because everyone wants their food. I'm sure everyone that's been to restaurants at iftar time will understand what I'm talking about, right? It's very busy at that particular time. So now the husband texts back saying, I can't come right now because I'm busy. And he genuinely means I'm busy. That's it. That's all he means it by. Now, is it a negative? Is it something to be taken so negatively? Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make, yeah? It's not something to be taken so negatively, is it? Okay, so that's that one message maybe then, yeah? But it can be taken negatively. We agree with that, right? It could be that he's neglecting her. He's saying, I don't want to know you right now, basically. I don't want to come right now. I'm busy. I'm just busy. I'm doing nothing, but I'm busy. It could be taken like that, right? Okay, so that's that.
Sorry, so I think the intention, the sender would send it in a positive light, but from the reader's perspective, it might come off as negative. Depends on the situation, obviously.
Very good, very good. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So it depends on the reader. And the sender sends it with certain mindset, but the reader would read it with their own mindset, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to get at, yeah? Okay, let's see. What about this one?
Seems quite abrupt from the reader's perspective.
Okay. What about everybody else? Negative, positive, rude? Didn't say please, yeah. Rushed. See, look, it could have been rushed in it. It could have been a rushed message. Bring the shopping. That's it, quick, because there's no time. Okay. It could have been a rude message, like you said. Didn't say please, but maybe they have a relationship whereby they know they never message please, they never message salam, they never message, just say straight to the point. And some people are like that in a message. They're to the point, right? What do you think? So again, the sender would send it with a certain mindset, with a certain, you know, background, whatever. But the reader will read it in their light, innit? They'll read it how they feel as they're reading it, right? Yeah, mashallah, mashallah. People are giving things that are very, very important here. Yes. So look, can people think of messages that you have sent to your, it doesn't have to be spouses now, mashallah. People are telling me to their siblings as well, to friends and whatever, right? You sent messages, but they were taken in the wrong light. Can you think of messages that were taken? Then you have to explain yourself. You have to explain yourself that, no, that's not how I meant it. Yes?
Yeah.
This is why I say, couples, stop messaging each other. Stop messaging each other important things. Okay? Important things should not be messaged. So don't message important matters. Okay? If you really must, yeah, if you can't catch them on the phone, then you must do voice note it. Do a voice message, do a voice note, record it, send it. Why? Because when you have this, there's no tone. Can you see? I can't come, I'm busy. Or bring the shopping. There's no tone. Yeah, I'll read it. When you send it to me, I'll read it in my tone, how I think you're saying it. I might feel you're yelling at me. I may feel you're being rude to me. I may feel you're being demeaning to me. I may feel whatever. I'll feel whatever I want to feel, because maybe we've had an argument yesterday and I'm not still over it. I'm not over the argument. We had an argument yesterday, yes? And this is probably our first or second conversation, yeah? And you're already telling me, bring the shopping. I'm going to take it in the wrong light, yes? Because we had an argument yesterday. I'm not over it. But you're over it. You've moved on. You've forgotten about the argument. Does it make sense?
Yep.
So you're sending this in a perfectly, very calm tone, they're being so calm. So what happens now? I read it. Now you're going to receive a nasty reply in it. And that's going to escalate things. And I can't tell you how many scary cases I've dealt with, which have ended up in court cases. I'm talking about court battles over custody and everything afterwards, right? And it all started from what? Started from a text message. A text message that was read in a wrong light. It was read wrongly. Don't do it, people. Don't send each other messages that are important. Don't do it. Why do it? You're just causing yourself problems. Is that making sense to everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
And nowadays people have become the texting generation, isn't it? People don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to converse with one another, face to face with people. So what they do, I've dealt with couples, right? They're sitting in the same room and they're texting one another. They're texting each other in the same room. Okay. How can you do that? Like, you're sitting in the same room, talk to one another, right? Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously people do it for a reason. So if you're not, this is the thing. Some people say that I'm going to message them. Look, I'm saying this because I hate to say this, right? Because these are real life cases. But, somebody called me a little while ago. Somebody called me about an issue they were having. And I told them to not message the thing that they were going to message to their husband. I told them, don't message it. I said, say it to them in person or call them. So now they said to me that, look, they're not picking up my calls. So and they ended up messaging it. And you won't believe it caused more problems for them. It caused more problems. And they called me up that, I've had more problems now. And I said, yeah, but you didn't listen to what I told you. Eh? I told you not to message it, and you're still messaging it because you're not understanding the importance of what I'm telling you, right? That it just causes more problems. So if they're not picking up your call and hence you want to message them, and that's what happens, isn't it? Right? They're not picking up your call, you're missing calling, they miss call, they reject your call even. And then on top of that, what do they do? Okay, you're missing, I'm going to message you now. So now you're going to message them. Now realize that they're not picking your call up because they're upset with you, right? They're angry at you, they're upset with you. Now tell me that any message you send at that time, do you think they're going to read it in good light? It's not going to happen, is it? That message is going to be taken, is going to be misread, it's going to be misunderstood, it's going to be taken as though you're being rude, it's going to be taken as though you're yelling at them, everything. And it's going to be you're going to make a mountain out of a mole in essence. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to compound the problem. So just don't do this. This is a very common problem I'm dealing with nowadays. So if you're not good with words and that's your reason of messaging, okay, that I'm not good with words, I don't know, sometimes I say things and I'm taken wrong, my words are taken misconstrued and whatever else, I say something and so I need to really think about what I say. So I write it down first. I text message it. It's better. It works for me better. Then what I say is write it down as a text message, but don't send it. Don't send it. And then instead of sending it, when you're together, then discuss it from what you've written. So write it down so it'll give you clarity of thought if you need to. Okay, but don't text message the thing. By text messaging, remember, as I said to you, I can read that in whichever way I want to read that. There's no voice to it. There's no sound. There's no expression. I can do what I want. And many people obviously miss out commas and everything, right? There's no grammar. There's no punctuation. So I will join sentences where I want to join sentences. And it'll just become a messy game for you then to have to explain yourself later. So people, stop messaging, okay? It just leads to problems. Yes, then the general stuff, like general stuff that can you please bring milk home when you're on your way. General stuff is fine. I'm not saying don't message at all, but the important stuff, don't message that. Things that will be taken, and especially after you've had an argument or something, don't message things. Okay, you rather send a voice note, because that will then be heard in the tone that you're saying it in. Okay, and I think that will bring us to an end on today's session. So we'll talk about when to solve conflicts, inshallah, tomorrow, and then we'll move on from there in terms of practical tips of how to solve conflict as well, inshallah. We've understood the concept of conflict and how it comes about, and causes of the conflict. But now, inshallah, we'll learn how to solve the conflict, inshallah, everybody.
Cheers.
If there are questions now, we'll deal with the last few questions, and we'll call it a day.
Inshallah. Someone asked with regards to text messages, what about using emojis?
Sorry, what about?
Emojis, emoticons and things like that. Emojis, also.
Whilst you're messaging?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can message. I'm not saying don't message at all, right? You can message, but don't message things that you know are possibly going to be misunderstood, right? Especially what I'm saying is after an argument, or things that are important. Things that are important to you, why would you message that to your partner?
Okay.
It's an important matter that you want to discuss. You shouldn't be messaging it to your partner.
Okay. So related to a previous session, if a proposal rejects you, can you ask them the reasons so you don't feel low self-esteem?
It's a tricky one, because if, for example, a proposal did reject you because of a reason they can't mention to you, they feel they can't mention it to you, they're going to make something up, right? So I would say is that you have to get over some things, right? Understand that you will find somebody that's suited to you. Does that make sense? So have a bit of confidence in yourself, right? I mean, Allah's created you in a certain way with certain qualities, not only the way you look, but in terms of the, with the personality you have and whatever else. The idea is to be genuine, be how you are, be who you are. And inshallah, you will find the right match for you. That's the idea, right? You'll find somebody who's of the right mentality and mindset, as we were talking about. So if somebody rejects you, then understand that we weren't on the same page. Simple as that, and move on. Don't dwell on it too much, because then you are going to start thinking all sorts of things. So don't worry about it, okay? And remember one thing, as one of my teachers used to say this, right? Just to share a point with everybody. One of my teachers used to say that many people, they don't get married, right? For quite some time. They find it hard to get married. It's because they haven't looked in the mirror. And I was like, wow, it's a bit harsh to say that, right? But they haven't looked in the mirror. But it's a true fact, and that's the reason why I mention it like this. Like, if you had a queue of let's say you had a queue of men and another queue of women, yeah. So from 1 to 100, 1 would be the most, the most handsome, the most beautiful, the prettiest, right? And 100 would be the other end of it, right? So if you yourself are, like, for example, you yourself are number 40 in the queue, right? You're not number 1. You're probably somewhere at 40 or whatever else, right? You're not going to find somebody who is a number up ahead of you, isn't it? Everyone's looking for that number 1, number 2, the glamorous person, the perfect person, the perfect shape, the perfect everything, yeah? You're not somebody who is the most handsome person yourself, that you're looking for somebody who is going to be, because the thing is, right, because of the amount of push and drive towards looks and things nowadays, it then drives a person to feel and to think that I can get somebody who is way more. So if you're number 40, you're going to find somebody number 40 or number 41. You're going to have to compromise like that, right? If you get lucky, you will get somebody who's number 39, 1 ahead of you. But it's unrealistic to then hope for somebody who's number 30 or number 20 in the queue that's way ahead of you in the queue. You're not going to find somebody like that. So that's something that we need to take into consideration, that, you know what, we don't match. So if somebody rejects you, just understand that you don't match. Simple as that. You don't need to feel hard done by this, right?
There's a question a sister asked last week. I wanted a clarification. So the clarification, I've messaged this to you earlier. I'll just read it out again, inshallah. Is that if that's okay, Mustafa?
Yes, yes.
I also have a 24-year-old daughter who is ready for marriage, and I'm trying to find a suitable spouse for her. The question of the blood test was for sexual disease, and he was not across properly to the Sheikh. It is from the point of view of a concerned mother handing over her very pure daughter to someone who makes claims of fidelity, but I just don't know. I just don't know you well enough.
Yeah. So in terms of the blood test, right? I mean, I think it will depend on the area and the custom. If it's something which everyone does anyway, which I don't know where people would do that, but let's say it's somewhere that everyone does anyway, then asking for something like that would be fine, right? But if it's something that no one really does this, like who does that? Who does in our society anyway, here in England? I don't think anyone does that, to ask for a blood test before getting married to somebody, unless there was reason to believe from the family or something, right? That there may be something inheritary, right? But otherwise, I don't think it's something that you would ask for, because you would, if you start demanding these things, you will find it hard to find somebody, because the good rishtas will start thinking that this is a bit too much invasion in privacy. There's no trust whatsoever. There needs to be a degree of trust as well. But in order to find out, like you're saying, in terms of whether you're in essence asking whether you want to find out whether the boy has been sleeping around. It's not too hard to find out. Just ask around, right? Just ask around. And if you can't get, if you get positive information, then there seems to be the person's going to be chased, right?
I think it's safe to say as well that if you feel like that, then you actually go to the stage where you're proposing proposal on its well, isn't it?
Sorry, go to?
I think it's safe to say that if you feel like this, if you feel any doubt that this person has been sleeping around, then you wouldn't actually go forward with it.
Yeah, then don't go forward, right? Don't go forward because if you know that, or if you have got that feeling that this person's, or for whatever reason you have that, then you wouldn't accept that proposal for your daughter who's, mashallah, been kept chaste all her life, right? So, but obviously, like for like is what I say, in terms that if somebody is obviously looking for somebody who's chaste, but you need to. I don't think you would ask these kind of blood test questions, I would say.
There's a final question. What does it mean? You used the phrase. What does it mean you haven't looked into the mirror yourself?
What does it mean? It means that you have to judge your handsomeness for a man and your beauty for a woman. You judge that as well. Obviously, you're not to be quite clear in what I mean. That you are not. Who is it nowadays? In our times, you're not Brad Pitt. That you're going to find. You're going to find some hunky woman that's in the stand.
That's good.
Yeah, and likewise for a woman, whoever the equivalent is. Yeah, so you have to look in the mirror. In essence, what I mean is that look at what stage you're at yourself, then work out what you're looking for. So all the rishtas, all the proposals that are coming your way, which are more or less same level as you're rejecting them because you're looking for somebody who's going to come from the movies to you. Yeah, but it's not going to happen, right? And this is where that that concept of like I said to you, that movie culture, that concept from the fairy tales and things like the Beauty and the Beast, or this other these cartoons like Shrek and whatever else, right? So you get the the beautiful princess gets married to some person that doesn't even look like a human, maybe. Yeah Does that make sense to what I'm saying? So it's a very fairy tale life that a person, because everyone places themselves into that main character. The males put themselves into that main character of the man. I mean, you ask kids in it, which character are you after watching a movie? They'll all want to be the hero, right? So everyone puts themselves in that shoe. Okay, so then you're going to think that I'm going to get this. So this is the harms of this. Yeah, we don't realize the realities of life.
Jazakallah khair, Mustafa, for your time, for your efforts, and giving such a wonderful and informative session. Barakallah.
Yes, mashallah, some very nice, very good comments as well. A good advice that's been given, shared. you know, the advice and things that people are sharing, I would like if people could gather and send it as an email as well later on after we finish the course. It doesn't have to be straight away, because I will be adding, there are some people who've sent certain parts as well, inshallah, then I've added parts into the presentation. So inshallah, your comments and your input, inshallah, will go into the presentation. So yeah, why not? Inshallah, you can always send things in.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khairan, Mustafa, for delivering such a wonderful session. Barakallah for your time.
To everybody, inshallah, tomorrow will be our last session, and your Q&A, your questions, answers, can be asked at the end as well. So Allah bless you all as well, giving me this opportunity to share these thoughts with yourselves, mashallah. Allah bless you.
I think the way you delivered it as well, mashallah, everyone can relate as well. I think all the brothers and sisters, they were saying as well that they were able to relate to their own lives as well, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. As long as it helps people, inshallah, make dua for me as well.
Inshallah, keep us in your du'as, Mustafa.
Inshallah, Allah bless you all, look after you all, give you all happy lives.
Ameen, ameen. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. Okay, everybody, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.